It's time to rank the Big Ten programs, not teams. If we did that, that would be easy. Big Ten programs ranked. What is a program? Let me state it very clearly so there is no misunderstanding. There will be misunderstanding. A program, to me, is a rolling 4-year snapshot of on-field results. So are you winning enough? Talent acquisition, majority recruiting, but also we pay attention to the portal. Your resource pool. Do you have deep enough pockets? Can you hire good enough coaching staffs? Are your facilities top-notch? That sort of thing. And then stability. Have you had a ton of coaching churn? Is there drama around the program? Or are you pretty much steady as you go? So it's a blend of all those. So if you fall short in one, that's okay. You can make it up in the others. Here we go. All right. I can't imagine how the comments are going to look here. But please understand, this is not an attempt, despite what some will say, to rage post or to clickbait. I'm just going to tell you this is how I feel. Many of you will disagree with it. That happens. It does happen every now and then. I got Ohio State as the #1 program in the Big Ten. There is certainly an argument for Michigan here. I'll make it in a second. Remember how I defined the program. Ohio State edges Michigan for the top spot here. They've lost to them 4 years in a row. Outside of that, they've beaten pretty much everyone. They have lost to their rival 4 years in a row. That brings them down a little bit. They just won a national championship, so that's a good thing. Recruiting, they're right there with Oregon in sort of a category of their own in the Big Ten, and really Ohio State's been the best recruiter over the past 4 years up there. Their average recruiting ranking has been 4.25. Their classes have been ranked 4th, 5th, 4th, and 4th. It's a rock-solid organizational structure. I think the argument would be, at what point do you have to value on-field results over everything? Well, I don't value on-field results over everything when it defines a program. Defining a team, I do. I would have put Michigan #1 here had the organization not had a lot of turnover. So that actually was the deciding factor for me. Ohio State's got the edge in talent acquisition. Michigan's got the big-time edge in on-field results. They've both got national championships over the past few years. Michigan, in fact, I'll go ahead and go to #2 right now. Michigan's #2. Michigan's got the highest winning percentage in the entire Big Ten. Yet Michigan has the highest winning percentage of any team in this conference over the last 4 years. So there's your on-field. They've won 4 in a row against Ohio State. There's your on-field part 2. They've got 3 Big Ten titles and a national title. There's more on-field. Recruiting, probably like one step off over the last 4 years, although this past class was excellent, and they got the #1 player in the country. So you see very quickly, it sounds like I'm making the argument they should be #1. I really won't push back on you if you argue they should be #1. This was close to me. But I thought they were both very comparable. For the edge that Michigan had in on-field, I looked and then I said, okay, but the guy who was responsible for most to all of that is Jim Harbaugh, and he's not there anymore. And program stability is one of the things that I factor. I don't even care about the NCAA stuff. I told you I don't think a lot's going to come from that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But please don't misunderstand me. I didn't bump them down to #2 because of that. I just threw it all in a blender, and this is how it spat it out for me. So Ohio State and Michigan 1-2. You can flip them if you want to. It would make sense. I could make the argument for either one of them. Let me cut in really quick and ask, look, prayer hands, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you think you're subscribed, check and make sure. Over 50% of you aren't. It's free, it doesn't sign you up for anything, and it helps us keep the show free, college football year-round, the way God intended it. All right, back to the clip. I think Oregon's #3 in Big Ten program rankings over the past 4 years. They have the #3 win percentage of any of these programs in the Big Ten. Recruiting plus portal is elite right now. It wouldn't surprise me if over the next 4 years they end up being #1 in the Big Ten in that category. If nothing changes, if Lanning's there, you know the drill. Dan Lanning's still very early in his career, by the way. I think he could go 12 more years head coaching and still be younger than Nick Saban was when Saban won his first national title. Just to give you an idea of how good Oregon is set up. But I think about program stability. You want to know how solid the organizational structure at Oregon is? Think about this. They lost a first-round quarterback, and the offense got better. Bo Nix gets drafted first round, offense gets better. They just went and got Dylan Gabriel, boom, plug and play. But also, over the past 4 years, they lost a head coaching caliber offensive coordinator. Kenny Dillingham left to go to Arizona State and be the head coach. And they stayed the same or maybe even got a little better production-wise. And they didn't do it in-house. Lanning went and got Will Stein. You didn't know who he was. You didn't. Look, I remember talking to Lanning about it and saying, walk me through this hire. And he walked me through it, sold me on it. Not that I needed to be sold, but it was really eye-opening about the process they went through, how they vetted that hire, how they sought him out. Like they know what they're doing when it comes to hiring up there. And so it's a consistently good staff. It's a hungry organization because you could still argue they haven't won anything major, which is a good thing as it relates to the future. Penn State is solidly number 4 for me. They've got no wins against the programs above them. They've got virtually no losses against the programs beneath them. Maybe 1 or 2 blemishes here and there, but nothing that would knock them down past 4. They average a top 12 class in recruiting. Over the past 4 years, it's a consistently good staff. And when Franklin has lost guys, he is backfilled. He's replaced with very effective guys, in some cases head coaches, coming in to be coordinators. So I got Penn State at 4. I've got Iowa at number 5. This is where the drop-off is. No disrespect to Iowa, but you got that I think you got the top 3 in the Big Ten. There's a little shelf drop. There's Penn State at 4. Then there's a big shelf drop. And then it gets really muddy. Then I'm not going to have a very, very lengthy argument with anyone about the order of these teams after 5 because it could be any order, and there's not much difference. I've got Iowa as the number 5 program in the Big Ten. They've got 2 10-win seasons over the past 4 years. They haven't been worse than 8 wins over the past 4 years. And while the recruiting rankings may not match what an Oregon does or even a Penn State does, their development's top tier. What they're getting out of the guys they bring in is pretty incredible. Now, the programs above them recruit better than they do, and they also develop. So that's why it's tough for Iowa to crack that top 4. But outside of those top 4 in the Big Ten, no one's done a consistently better job than Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. How about 6 through 10? We had a knockdown, drag-out fight trying to put this together today. So hear me again. I'm not going to debate anyone for a long time on this because you may be right. I put USC at number 6. They've trended down every year over the past 3 years. Now, they got D'Anton Lynn, the defensive coordinator. They brought him across town last year. Defensive staff upgraded. That's great. Still remains to be seen how much of an impact that's going to have. Well, then this past cycle after the season, they went organizationally and made a few hires, which, again, I applaud, but they haven't proven anything yet. There is no tangible result from those moves yet. So I'm working on the here and now in the past 4 years and what they've been. They've got that year where they finished like 70th in recruiting that's baked in that really skews the ratings. They recruit plenty well enough. I'd love for it to be better, but they recruit well enough to elevate them to, I think, the number 6 spot here. Washington at 7 is kind of sneaky. Recruiting's trending up for them. Kalen DeBoer showed the right guy there can win. Jed Fish, I think, will show. The right guy there can win. I think they'll see a nice uptick in production this year, but this is not predictive. This is where Washington is right now. So they're number 7. I'd put Illinois at number 8. They just came off a 10-3 season, but they're putting themselves in position to take a shot every year. What I mean by that is they're good enough now. Their talent roster is good enough now. Their organizational structure is good enough. Their staff is good enough to where they give themselves at least a puncher's chance of popping an 8 or a 9 win season on you. Doesn't always mean they will, but the program is in a steady enough spot, which I think warrants consideration in around the number 8 range. I'd put Minnesota at number 9. PJ Fleck's been solid there. They've averaged 8 wins a year over the past 4 years. They've turned into a very reliable team. And then number 10 was hard because I could have put Indiana here. I put Nebraska there. I would not fight you if you wanted Indiana there. Need to see a little more from them than just one season. But the record's improved for Nebraska every year. Their recruiting numbers are going to be better than a lot of these teams, but what are you doing with it? I know the comments are going to be littered with people arguing that number 11 should have been number 7 or number 13 should have been 10. Fine. Make your point. Make your logic-based points and your counterpoints. But, I mean, 6 through 10 in the Big Ten is a mess right now to try and figure out.